The strongest prison ever built has no walls, no bars, no guards. It exists in the space between what happens to us and how we think about what happens to us. Most people spend their entire lives as inmates in this invisible jail, never realizing the door was always unlocked. 2,000 years ago, a man who lived in actual chains discovered this secret. His story poses a question that cuts through every philosophy, every self-help book, every meditation app. Is peace possible in a world designed to disturb us? Most of us accept a peculiar bargain with existence. We surrender our tranquility to forces beyond our control: traffic jams, broken relationships, political upheaval, the inevitable march of time. We tell ourselves this is simply the price of being human. But what if that assumption is fundamentally wrong? 2,000 years ago, in the bustling streets of ancient Rome, a man who had every reason to be bitter discovered something extraordinary. Born into slavery around 50 AD in Hierapolis, Epictetus would become one of history's most profound teachers of inner freedom, not despite his circumstances, but because of them. The irony is striking. A man who possessed nothing in the conventional sense, no wealth, no status, no guarantee of tomorrow, would unlock the secret to unshakable peace. His name was Epictetus, which literally means acquired one, a label for property, not a person. Yet this acquired one would teach emperors and philosophers that true freedom exists in a place no master can reach. After gaining his freedom, Epictetus studied under the Stoic philosopher Musonius Rufus. When Emperor Domitian expelled all philosophers from Rome in 89 AD, Epictetus established his own school in Nicopolis. Students traveled from across the empire to hear him speak, but Epictetus never wrote down his teachings. Everything we know comes from the meticulous notes of his student Arian, preserved in works we call the Discourses and the Enchiridion. What made Epictetus different wasn't just his philosophy. It was his unflinching honesty about human nature and our relationship with suffering. Epictetus observed something that modern neuroscience would later confirm. We don't suffer because of events themselves. We suffer because of the stories we tell about those events. Consider this moment. You receive a text message. Before you even read it, your mind begins its ancient work, judging, categorizing, preparing emotional responses. If it's from someone you love, anticipation rises. If it's from your boss on a Sunday, dread creeps in. The message itself is neutral pixels on a screen, electromagnetic signals. Yet within microseconds, your mind transforms it into something that can either elevate or devastate your day. This is what Epictetus called the fundamental mistake of human psychology. We confuse our judgments about reality with reality itself. Take something as simple as a spider. The creature itself possesses no inherent emotional charge. It's simply doing what spiders do, following patterns written in its DNA across millions of years. Yet our minds project entire narratives onto it: danger, disgust, the need to flee or destroy. The spider remains indifferent to our stories. It continues being a spider. We, however, become prisoners of our own perceptions. This process happens thousands of times each day. We encounter people, situations, news, changes in weather, and instantly, almost involuntarily, we add layers of meaning, judgment, and emotional significance. Some judgments are useful, even necessary for survival. But many are not just unhelpful. They're the primary source of our psychological suffering. Epictetus identified two fundamental drives that govern human behavior: desire and aversion. We want certain things to happen, and we want other things not to happen. This seems natural, even obvious. The problem emerges when we direct these forces toward things beyond our control. Imagine you desire your political candidate to win an election. You've invested emotionally in this outcome. You've argued with friends, lost sleep over polls, felt your mood rise and fall with each piece of news. Election day arrives. You vote, the one action genuinely within your control, and then you wait. If your candidate loses, you feel devastated. If they win, you feel elated, but immediately begin worrying about their performance in office. Notice what happened. You attached your emotional well-being to an outcome involving millions of variables completely outside your influence. You became, in Epictetus's words, a slave to external circumstances. Your peace of mind now depends on the collective decisions of strangers, media narratives, economic conditions, and countless other factors you cannot control. This pattern repeats endlessly. We desire our children to be successful, our relationships to be perfect, our bodies to remain young, our reputations to stay untarnished. We feel aversion toward illness, rejection, loss, aging, death. Each attachment becomes a potential source of suffering because the universe operates according to its own logic, not our preferences. Perhaps nowhere is this more evident than in our relationships with those we love most. Our spouses, children, closest friends. These connections provide life's richest experiences. They also contain the seeds of our most profound suffering. Epictetus made an observation that many find disturbing. Our love for others often contains a subtle form of possession. We don't just love our children, we need them to stay safe, to love us back, to remain in our lives forever. We don't just cherish our spouse, we require their fidelity, their presence, their continued affection. These needs, however natural they seem, transform love into attachment. And attachment, according to Epictetus, is a form of slavery. We become dependent on others' choices, health, and circumstances for our own emotional stability. When they suffer, we suffer. When they leave, through death, betrayal, or simply growing apart, we feel devastated not just by their absence, but by the collapse of our identity as someone who possesses their love. This doesn't mean Epictetus advocated emotional detachment or cold indifference. He wasn't suggesting we stop caring about others. Rather, he was pointing to a paradox. The more desperately we cling to what we love, the less free we become to actually love. Desperation creates anxiety. Anxiety clouds judgment. Clouded judgment leads to controlling behaviors, jealousy, and the very actions that often drive away those we're trying to hold close. So how do we love without becoming enslaved by attachment? Epictetus offered a deceptively simple practice. Learn to see the nature of things as they actually are. If you are fond of a ceramic cup, he taught, remind yourself that it is only ceramic cups in general of which you are fond. Then, if it breaks, you will not be disturbed. This isn't about becoming callous toward beautiful objects. It's about understanding their nature. Ceramic cups break. That's not a flaw in the universe's design. It's simply what ceramic cups do. When we understand this, we can appreciate the cup's beauty and utility without living in constant fear of its destruction. The same principle applies to everything we encounter. Traffic jams happen not because the universe is against us, but because that's what traffic does when millions of people try to move through limited space at the same time. People sometimes act selfishly, not because they're inherently evil, but because humans often prioritize their immediate needs over broader considerations. Politicians make promises they can't keep. Friends sometimes betray trust. Bodies age and become ill. These aren't aberrations requiring our outrage. They're simply the nature of politicians, friendships, and human bodies. When we see things as they are rather than as we wish they were, something remarkable happens. Resistance dissolves. The energy we were using to fight reality becomes available for more productive purposes. We can still work to improve situations within our control, but we do so from a place of clarity rather than reactive emotion. This brings us to Epictetus' most profound insight, a teaching so simple it can be stated in a single sentence, yet so revolutionary it can transform an entire life. Don't demand that things happen as you wish that they happen as they do happen. and you will go on well. Read that again, slowly. Let it settle. This isn't resignation or passive acceptance of injustice. It's something far more radical. The complete realignment of our desires with reality itself. Most of us live in constant tension with what is. We wake up wishing the weather were different, the news more positive, our circumstances more favorable. We carry an ongoing argument with existence itself. Epictetus suggests ending that argument, not by giving up on improvement, but by accepting what's actually happening as the starting point for any meaningful action. When you align your will with what's actually occurring, several things happen simultaneously. First, the enormous energy you were spending on resistance becomes available for creative response. Second, you see situations more clearly because you're not filtering them through the fog of wishful thinking. Third, you become genuinely free, not free from difficulty, but free to respond to difficulty from a place of inner stability rather than reactive emotion. You might wonder, how does this ancient wisdom apply to our hyper-connected, emotionally volatile modern world? The answer is that it applies more than ever. We live in an attention economy designed to trigger desire and aversion constantly. Social media platforms profit from keeping us in states of craving and rejection. News outlets know that outrage drives engagement. Consumer culture thrives on manufacturing dissatisfaction with what we have. Every notification, every advertisement, every political headline is carefully crafted to hijack our psychological programming. We're being deliberately conditioned to attach our well-being to things beyond our control: election outcomes, celebrity drama, stock market fluctuations, other people's opinions of our carefully curated online personas. Epictetus offers an antidote to this manufactured suffering. By understanding what truly belongs to us, our choices, our judgments, our responses, we can engage with the modern world without being enslaved by it. We can care about social causes without our happiness depending on immediate political victories. We can maintain relationships without being destroyed by others' approval or disapproval. We can work toward goals without being devastated when outcomes don't match our expectations. This doesn't make us passive or indifferent. If anything, it makes us more effective. When we're not constantly reactive to circumstances, we have more energy and clarity for meaningful action. When we're not emotionally enslaved to outcomes, we can take bigger risks and persist through longer challenges. There's something profoundly moving about the fact that these teachings come from someone who knew actual enslavement. Epictetus understood both external and internal bondage intimately. He knew what it meant to have no control over his circumstances, his body, his daily activities. Yet, in that experience of ultimate powerlessness, he discovered the one realm that remains sovereign regardless of external conditions, the realm of choice itself. Every moment, we choose how to interpret what's happening. Every situation, we choose our response. Every relationship, we choose whether to love from a place of freedom or cling from a place of fear. These choices may seem small, but they're the only things that are entirely ours. No one can make them for us. No external force can truly touch them. This is why Epictetus could speak of freedom while living in a society built on slavery. This is why his teachings resonated with everyone from Roman emperors to medieval monks to modern psychologists. He had found the one form of liberty that no external circumstance can revoke. So where does this leave us? How do we actually implement these insights in our daily lives? Start small. Notice when you're suffering and ask, is this suffering coming from the event itself or from my judgment about the event? When you're stuck in traffic, observe the difference between the actual experience sitting in a car, slightly delayed, and your mental commentary about the experience. Practice seeing the general nature of things. When your phone battery dies, remind yourself, this is what phone batteries do. When someone cancels plans, remember, this is what people sometimes do. When you make a mistake, recognize, This is what humans do. Gradually, extend this practice to bigger challenges. When facing illness, job loss, relationship problems, or any form of difficulty, ask, what aspects of this situation can I actually influence? Focus your energy there. For everything else, practice what Epictetus called the discipline of desire, wanting things to be as they are, at least as your starting point for any action. This isn't easy. It's perhaps the most difficult practice imaginable because it requires us to give up the illusion that we can control the universe through worry, anger, or desperate wanting. But it is also the most liberating practice possible because it frees us from fighting battles we cannot win and allows us to engage with life from a place of authentic choice rather than compulsive reaction. In the end, Epictetus offers us something extraordinary, the possibility of peace that doesn't depend on favorable circumstances. Not the peace of avoidance or denial, but the peace of clear seeing. Not the peace of getting what we want, but the peace of wanting what we get. Not the peace of a perfect life, but the peace of a perfectly free response to an imperfect life. This kind of peace, what he called ataraxia, or unshakability, isn't just an abstract philosophical concept. It is a lived reality that becomes available when we stop trying to arrange the universe according to our preferences and start aligning our preferences with the universe as it actually unfolds. The traffic will always be there. People will continue to act according to their own understanding and motivations. Bodies will age, relationships will change, and circumstances will remain largely beyond our control. But in the midst of all that flux and uncertainty, we can find something stable. Our capacity to choose our response, to see clearly, and to act from a place of inner freedom rather than reactive compulsion. The former slave discovered what emperors and billionaires often miss. True power isn't the ability to control external circumstances. True power is freedom from the need to control them. In that freedom, paradoxically, we often find we can influence our circumstances more skillfully than ever before. But whether we can or can't, whether we succeed or fail, whether life goes according to plan or takes us somewhere completely unexpected, we remain free. That freedom, according to Epictetus, is the birthright of every conscious being. It cannot be given to us by any external authority, and it cannot be taken away by any external force. It can only be claimed by understanding and lived through practice.